In winter, especially now in January, the garden can seem pretty dead and lifeless. But the reality is that perennial plants, especially things like raspberries and blueberry bushes and rhubarb, which I have in front of me, they're actually just dormant. The leaves have gone away for the year and they're just waiting under the soil to regrow and reemerge in spring. But while they are dormant, while they're sleeping, we can do some work with them that we can't really do during the growing year. And that includes pruning them, moving them, and I've done both of those things today. So I dug up a jostaberry and I've taken it out and moved some black currants and red currants to go in its place. Another thing that we can do this time of the year is divide and replant rhubarb, and that's what I'm about to do. When I took on this plot a good 5 years ago, the rhubarb was already here. But what I have noticed is that in the past year, it has been struggling a bit. So I'm going to dig it up today, chop it into pieces, and then replant the strongest one here and put a good mulch of manure on top as well. And rhubarb really benefits from being divided every 5 years or so. So it's right on time. And it might be that you have rhubarb in your garden that could use a divide and replanting up right now as well. There's another rhubarb plant that I have over on my half plot that I'm giving up this year. And you can just make it out here. And it looks like it's already starting to grow. I would say that it's still safe to divide rhubarb that's at this stage. But when you start to see tall stems coming up out of it, at least a couple of inches tall, then probably just leave it alone and let it grow, divide it the next year. Rhubarb is tough, but you don't really want to take your chances. The soil is a little bit disturbed back here because I removed some raspberries and some mint that was growing. There's also some tulips and other bulbs in here, which I'm sure I'll come across as I divide this up. But I've pulled the soil from around this rhubarb crown and it is pretty big. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 9 buds on it. And this is really congested, I would say. And it's going to really benefit from being chopped up. And each one of those pieces will have a lot more room to spread out and grow. Oftentimes you'll get the recommendation to dig the rhubarb plant up and then to divide it afterwards. It can actually be easier just to find the buds on the plant and to slice through them. And then you can lift the pieces with your garden fork. Fortunately, the soil is really loose, not too wet, not frozen. You don't really want to do this when the ground is frozen. And the pieces came up really easily. And I have 3 really big, decent clumps. And then there's a few more pieces that are smaller. They're probably not my top pick for replanting. And I think probably I'll go for this one here. This one has a good couple of buds on it, decent size, pretty healthy. And I'm going to now put a little bit of compost into this hole and I'm going to plant just one of these pieces of rhubarb into this area, and then I'm going to mulch it really well. And then this year it will grow and I will leave it alone. I'm not going to harvest from it. And then the following year I'll be able to start harvesting as usual. And all the other pieces that I have over here will create new plants as well. And it's as easy as that. You just do this every 5 years, and this is the way that you can keep your rhubarb happy and healthy, uncongested, and producing lots of delicious stems. I've now divided the rhubarb, I replanted a piece, and then I took all of my spare pieces of crown and put them up next to the shed with the other pieces that someone else had left. And someone has already been passed and taken a piece of mine, and that just really shows that money-saving aspect of growing at an allotment, sharing amongst ourselves. It also got me to thinking, is my rhubarb going to be any different to the rhubarb crown that's up there? So I took a piece and I planted it here. So I now have rhubarb over there and I have rhubarb here. And if there is loads of rhubarb, a big surplus, that's great, because I have it in my mind to make a lot more rhubarb wine, which is delicious. And I have a recipe over my website if you want to check that out and bookmark it for this year. But for this year, I'm going to let both of these patches grow on. I'm not going to harvest from them and let them get really established. Next year is going to be another story. If your rhubarb has been growing, it's quite a large patch, you've not divided it in 5 years or ever, you can use the time now when the plants are dormant to divide it up, get that plant replanted, give it a bit more space, share pieces with friends, and basically rejuvenate your rhubarb patch. And you should do that every 5 years or so. And rhubarb can last and live for decades, 50 years or more, if you keep the patch healthy and productive. I hope that this has given you some tips on how to do this very easy winter gardening task. If you want some more inspiration for other things you could do this time of the year, I'll leave some ideas down in the video description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Lovely Greens. Bye for now. One last thing before you go. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to Lovely Greens and click that little bell icon so that you get notifications for when new videos are out.